हृदय से स्वागत करते हैं माननीय राष्ट्रपति महोदया श्रीमती द्रौपदी मुर्मू जी का. We extend a very warm welcome to Justice Arun Mishra, Chairperson NHRC, Mr. Du Huang Song, Chairperson Asia Pacific Forum of National Human Rights Institutions (APF), Ms. Amina Boyach, Secretary Global Alliance of National Human Rights Institutions. हम स्वागत करते हैं डॉक्टर DM मुले, मेंबर NHRC, श्री राजीव जैन, मेंबर NHRC, तथा श्री भरतलाल, सेक्रेटरी जनरल NHRC का. We extend a very hearty welcome to all esteemed guests and delegates who have come from different countries and India. This auspicious occasion of 28th meeting of NHRI of Asia Pacific will bring members, institutions together to develop partnership at international and regional level to promote and protect human rights. Let's get together to make a change forever. आइए आपसी सहयोग से साझेदारी के नए द्वार खोलें. आइए मानव अधिकारों की सुरक्षा के इस प्रण में हम सब जुड़ जाएं, जुट जाएं, एकजुट हो जाएं. इसी भावना की ज्योति को प्रज्वलित करने के लिए हमारा विनम्र अनुरोध है माननीय राष्ट्रपति महोदया आपसे कि कृपया मणिदीपक को जलाकर कार्यक्रम का शुभारंभ करें. In India, we begin any auspicious occasion with lighting of the lamp, which symbolizes the triumph of light over darkness.
The motto of NHRC says, Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinah, which means, may all be happy. The ancient prayer of India says, Tamaso ma Jyotirgamaya. From darkness, lead me to light. हमारे यहाँ परंपरा रही है कि किसी भी शुभ शुरुआत में हम मणिदीपक प्रज्वलित करते हैं. Thank you, Honorable President Madam, and all the distinguished dignitaries. May I now request Shri Bharatlal, Secretary General, National Human Rights Commission, to kindly deliver welcome address. कृपया स्वागत संबोधन के लिए पधारें.
Very good morning to everyone. Namaskar. On behalf of National Human Rights Commission, India and Asia Pacific Forum, I am honored to extend a very warm welcome to all of you to this biennial conference of National Human Rights Institution of Asia Pacific. On this occasion, we are also hosting the 28th annual general meeting of the Asia Pacific Forum of NHRI. In 1996, at Darwin, Australia, India, New Zealand, and Philippines formed the Asia Pacific Forum. Since then, the forum has grown and now has 26 members. This is one of the 4 regional networks of Global Alliance of National Human Rights Institutions. It has been set up to support and strengthen national human rights institutions to promote and protect human rights throughout the Asia and Pacific. In the past, India hosted the APF meets in the year 2002 and 2014. In this conference, we'll be discussing various emerging challenges and way forward to collaborate to promote and protect human rights. As we all know, India, a great civilization and diverse country of 1.43 billion people, has deep-rooted ethos of democracy. Ideas of equality, liberty, justice, and fraternity is ingrained in all of us. Empathy and compassion to all forms of life is a way of life. 75 years back, when a Universal Declaration of Human Rights was being prepared, it was Hansa Mehta from India who introduced gender equality. Similarly, Lakshmi Menon was another Indian who introduced non-discrimination into the document. They reflected Indian ethos. Presently, historic session of Indian Parliament is going on. Despite Honorable President of India has decided to be with all of us. Honorable President, this shows her commitment to human rights. Her empathy and compassion to vulnerable and marginalized section of society is a source of inspiration to all of us. On behalf of NHRC India and your behalf, I extend a very warm welcome to Honorable President of India. Indeed, we are grateful to your generosity. May I request all of you to welcome the President of India with a round of applause. On this occasion, I also welcome Mr. Du Wan Song, Chairperson of Asia Pacific Forum. We are thankful for your gracious presence. I also extend a warm welcome to Ms. Amina Boyach, Secretary of Global Alliance of National Human Rights Institution. Thank you, Your Excellency, for being with us here today. Justice Mr. Arun Mishra, after taking over as chairperson of NHRC India, has brought a new dynamism into the institution. He is the force behind a number of initiatives at the NHRC. This meet is the result of his continuous guidance. On behalf of all of you, I welcome Justice Mishra, chairperson, NHRC India. At the commission, Dr. Daneshwar Mule and Shri Rajiv Jain, honorable members, have been the source of strength. Their work to promote human rights of most vulnerable and marginalized section of society is setting a new benchmark. I welcome both of you, sir. I extend a very warm welcome to the chairpersons, members, and officials of the National Human Rights Institution of Asia and Pacific. Thank you very much for being here. Your presence will go a long way in achieving the objectives of the conference. I welcome the members of Diplomatic Corps. I also welcome chairperson and members of various statutory organizations, state human rights commissions, former chairperson and members of the NHRC, the members of judicial and legal fraternity, secretaries and senior officers of the central and state governments, UT administration, special rapporteurs, monitors, and members of the core group of NHRC, special invitees, and friends with special needs. Human rights defenders, academicians, representatives of civil society, business, and media. It is an honor to welcome students and researchers from various institutions. Your enthusiastic presence gives us the confidence that next generation is ready to take the cause of human rights forward. NHRC India works very closely with human rights defenders and these institutions to bring change in people's lives. During the conference, we'll be discussing 30 years of promoting and protecting human rights across Asia and Pacific, advancing the Universal Declaration of Human Rights and its promise of freedom, equality, and justice for all, and the role of NHRI in responding to and mitigating the impact of climate change on human rights. Once again, I welcome you all and thank you for joining the conference. I am sure that in these 2 days, we'll have meaningful deliberation. Thank you.
Thank you, Secretary General, NHRC. May I now request Justice Arun Mishra, Chairperson, National Human Rights Commission, to kindly welcome the Honorable President, Madam, with a bouquet. कृपया माननीय राष्ट्रपति महोदया का स्वागत फूलों से करें. Thank you. May I now request Ms. Amina Boyach, Secretary, Global Alliance of National Human Rights Institutions, to kindly address this august gathering.
Marhaba, Namaste. Honorable President of India, dear colleague Justice Arun Mishra, Chairperson of National Human Rights Commission of India, dear colleague Mr. Do Wan Song, Chairperson of EPF, Excellencies, friends, colleagues. I am deeply honored to address you today at the opening of the EPF's 28th Annual General Meeting and the effective presence of the Honorable President of India. In my capacity as Ghanaian Secretary, I am so pleased to be joined here today by our Ghanaian Head Office, Katarina Rose. She's there. Let me start by warmly thanking our host, the National Human Rights Commission of India, for their generous hospitality and gracious reception from the moment we landed in the airport. I also thank the EPF and its presidents and also the executive director for its continued partnership and support to national institutions and our collective global work through the Biennial. 1 week after the quake hit in my country, Morocco, I did not hesitate to be here with all of you in New Delhi. Expression of empathy, compassion, and support. Few hours from around the world. The first official few hours the earthquake, of which was from India, comfort me. And after the shock of earthquake, the pain of losses of lives, comes the time for mobilization to get back on the normal track of life. Thank you for your compassion and empathy for Morocco, what happened in Morocco. We are meeting in complex time, ladies and gentlemen, for human rights and the institutions that defend them. The profound impacts of pandemic, ongoing poverty and discrimination, devastating effects on climate change, shrinking civic space, and the new conflicts across all the regions are of grave concern. The response to the multiple crises we are facing must be centered in human rights. All of these need to be designed with people as part of solutions by enabling inclusive, safe, and meaningful channels for debates and participation. In that process, their colleagues, national human rights institutions have a central and critical responsibilities and can provide essential bridges between states, civil society, and states and all society, our societies. Then, 30 years ago, ladies and gentlemen, the world community, under the auspice of the United Nations, recognized this critical role of national institutions when states adopted the Paris Principles. In the same year, Biennial was formed with the mission to establish, support, strengthen, and be a voice of all the national institutions of human rights. From 12 members back in 1993, including the Indian Commission of Human Rights and CNDH Morocco, Biennial has grown to be a vibrant membership of 120 national human rights around the world. Biennial, ladies and gentlemen, is a big family of national human rights institutions, reflecting various models and legal traditions we established it decades ago and we ourselves have since ensured the implementation of its principles and developed its rules. We decided together, all the national human rights institutions, to set up a universal framework for actions on the basis of which we act individually and together for protection and promotion of human rights. The 50th anniversary of Universal Declaration of Human Rights and the 30th anniversary of Paris Principle provide us with an opportunity to celebrate the critical contribution of national human rights institutions to human rights for all, peace, and sustainable development, and to recall the centrality of human rights in our daily lives. Ladies and gentlemen, sure I am looking forward to inspiring exchange during these days, today and also during our conference tomorrow. Together, all, we can make the difference and contribute to make a world where everyone, everywhere, full enjoy their human rights. Thank you for your attention, and I wish us an aspiring debates and productive meetings and recommendations. Thank you very much for your hosting the gathering here in New Delhi.
Thank you, Ms. Amina Boyat. May I now request Mr. Do Hwang Song, Chairperson Asia Pacific Forum of National Human Rights Institutions, APF, to kindly address us.
안녕하십니까. 저는 대한민국 국가인권위원회 위원장이자 아시아 태평양 국가인권기구 포럼 의장을 맡고 있는 송두환입니다. 이번 제28차 APF 총회는 코로나19로 인해서 4년 만에 대면으로 진행되는 회의입니다. 귀중한 시간을 내셔서 이 자리에 오신 모든 분들께 감사의 인사를 드립니다. 특히 아시아 태평양 국가 인권 기구들을 환영해 주신 드라우파디 무르무 인도 대통령께 감사드립니다. 더불어 이번 총회의 주최를 맡아주신 인도 국가인권위원회 아룬쿠마 미시라 위원장께도 깊은 감사의 뜻을 전합니다. 30년 전 UN 총회에서 파리 원칙이 채택되었을 당시에 전 세계 국가인권기구는 40여 개에 불과했습니다. 그런데 2023년 현재 국가인권기구의 수는 120개로 증가하였습니다. 전 세계에 위치한 국가인권기구는 우리가 속한 아시아 태평양 지역뿐만 아니라 미주, 유럽, 아프리카 등 지역별로 네트워크를 가지고 있습니다. 그리고 UN 등 국제사회와도 긴밀히 협력하면서 인권 보장을 위한 공동의 노력을 해나가고 있습니다. 이러한 노력에도 불구하고 우리는 계속해서 새로운 도전 과제를 맞이하고 있습니다. 세계화와 더불어서 각종 국제적 또는 지역적 분쟁, 빈곤, 그리고 불평등, 기후위기 등 전 세계적으로 함께 힘을 모아서 해결해야 할 문제들이 점점 많아지고 있습니다. 코로나19는 여성과 아동, 노인, 장애인, 난민 등 사회적으로 소외된 사람들이 인권을 더욱더 어려운 그리고 그 해소되기 어려운 사각지대로 내몰았고 유엔에서 경고한 것처럼 지구 온난화, 글로벌 워밍을 넘어서 찾아온 지구 열대화, 글로벌 보일링 이런 현상은 그 누구도 피해갈 수 없는 우리 모두의 문제가 되었습니다. 이러한 위기 앞에서 독립적으로 활동하는 국가인권기구의 역할은 더욱 중요해졌다고 봅니다. 아시아 태평양 지역 국가인권기구들은 어려움 속에서도 인권을 보호하고 증진하기 위해서 최선의 노력을 다해 왔습니다. 자기 나라의 인권 문제뿐만이 아니라 국경을 넘나드는 지역적 차원의 문제 해결을 위해서 함께 공동의 해결책을 마련하기도 하고 동남아시아 국가연합 또는 태평양 제도 포럼과 같은 정부 간 메커니즘과의 협력도 모색했습니다. 앞으로 이틀간 열릴 제28차 APF 연례회의 그리고 경년 컨퍼런스에서 우리는 이러한 국가인권기구의 성과를 짚어보고 앞으로 나아가야 될 비전을 제시하고자 노력할 것입니다. 풍부한 논의를 통해서 아시아 태평양 지역의 인권 현황 그리고 과제, 인권 보호를 위한 국가인권기구 간 협력과 연대 방안을 나누고 이를 통해서 아시아 태평양의 인권 보호 및 증진을 위한 실질적인 방안을 마련할 수 있기를 기대합니다. 끝으로 이번 회의에 참여해 주신 이 자리에 계신 모든 분들께 다시 한번 감사의 인사를 드립니다. 감사합니다.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Du Huang Song. अब हमारा अनुरोध है जस्टिस अरुण मिश्रा चेयरपर्सन नेशनल ह्यूमन राइट्स कमीशन से कि कृपया आज के इस शुभ अवसर पर हम सबको संबोधित करें। और अब जस्टिस अरुण मिश्रा चेयरपर्सन नेशनल ह्यूमन राइट्स कमीशन हम सबको संबोधित करेंगे।
Honorable President of India, Chairperson of Asia Pacific Forum, Mr. Du Huang Song, Chairperson Morocco Human Rights Council and Secretary of Global Alliance of National Human Rights Institutions, Ms. Amina Boyash, my colleagues Dr. D.M. Mulle, Mr. Rajiv Jain, Secretary General of the Commission, Mr. Bharat Lal, Chairpersons of NHRIs of Asia Pacific region, former judges of the Supreme Court, Excellencies, Chairpersons of National Commission and State Human Commission, delegates, spiritual leader Dr. Chandrabhanu Satpathy, dignitaries, ladies and gentlemen. At the outset, on behalf of all of us, let me place on record our heartfelt condolences to the families of those who lost their loved ones in a tragic earthquake in Morocco. We also express sympathies to those who have otherwise suffered. In this hour of grief, we stand together with the people of Morocco. I am deeply honored and privileged to welcome the Honorable President of India warmly. In spite of her busy schedule, she has agreed to inaugurate the conference. I also extend a warm welcome to all of you on the occasion of the conference. We are completing the 30th anniversary of Paris Principles. India has a history of the last 5,000 years of ethos, compassion, empathy, and human dignity. Human rights are moral, pre-legal rights, cannot be granted or taken away. Every law is required to be compliant with human rights. Inspired by our culture and ethos, our constitution makers incorporate these values in the Constitution of India. In the same spirit, India pioneered the establishment of National Human Rights Commission as a statutory body in 1993. The Commission motto is Sarve Bhavantu Sukhina. Let everybody be happy. All of us are committed to upholding dignity and rights as every human in the vast Asia-Pacific region with diverse cultures, languages, traditions, and religions. We are entrusted with the noble task of upholding the human rights of those who cannot fight for their rights. We also recognize the challenges of disparities that persist and injustices that continue to afflict us in many ways. We all cherish the value of equality, freedom, and justice. In that spirit, we protect human rights and provide expeditious and speedy machinery for the redressal of the grievances. We all are working for need-based distributive justice so that no one is deprived of rights due to socio-economic conditions and personal beliefs. The concentration of wealth in few hands globally is causing brooding sense of injustice. There is an acute need for the inclusion of marginalized and other disadvantaged segments of the society in the gains of globalization. Inequality in income and wealth is attributed mainly to high-tech aggregation platforms. Most of them are not producers of the good, but mere distributors. Their monopoly disrupts the global supply chain and has suddenly posed challenges to the producers, distributors, and small and medium retailers and business houses worldwide. They are often involved in unfair labor practices violating human rights. While involved in hazardous business activity, big businesses have to be accountable for human rights. After worst gas tragedy in Bhopal in 1984, the hazardous debris still awaits removal. Delays causing contamination of groundwater and soil. Business houses must be responsible for processing waste and removing debris from their own premises. Stringent safety measures and liability are necessary to prevent the recurrence of such incidents. The right of freedom of profession, business and trade and occupation, including the right to property and intellectual property right, are to be respected. However, they are subject to limitations and restrictions in the public interest. The intervention of regulatory bodies, particularly in pricing life-saving drugs, medicines, vaccines, and medical devices, is necessary for protecting the right to health, which is part of right to life. Consumers are to be protected against unrealistic price extraction. Every packed product should reflect MRP. Price must correlate with the cost of production. which consumer must know. He has right to know it. The right to livelihood is a part of right to life. We must ensure that workers involved in various economic activities are provided human working conditions. For the tribals who live in remote and forest areas, their customary rights must be respected. Unfair trade practices too violate human rights. Overuse of fertilizers and impermissible pesticides damages soil, water and health, creates intergenerational issues. In every country, to improve the quality of life of their citizens, the governments are pursuing wealth creation in economic activities. However, we must ensure that we do not cause permanent damage to the environment, nature, water bodies, flora and fauna. Our moral duty is to ensure that future generations do not pay the price of our actions or omissions. We have already started paying the price due to environmental damage and climate change. Unfortunately, nature's fury always impacts the weakest. Today, erratic rainfall, prolonged drought, leading to forest fires, and high-intensity cyclones are playing havoc with the lives and livelihood. Water and air pollution must be addressed. Prevention of the deforestation and increasing forest cover are necessary for our survival. The Committee of Nations came together and decided to improve the quality of people's lives by agreeing to sustainable development goals which are to be achieved by 2030. It is pertinent that culture of recycle, reuse and reduce is practiced by all to ensure intergenerational equity. The proliferation of cyberspace has created challenges for human rights like hacking, dark web, fraud, human trafficking. Our children have become more vulnerable. The growing menace of CSAM, child sexual abuse material, is one example. Recently, NHRC India held a conference on the issue of CSAM. We have to evolve better mechanism to monitor and combat the misuse of cyberspace. Blocking CSAM and malicious content requires the big players in the internet to be sensitive and proactive in protecting the human rights of marginalized sections by identifying and taking down offensive content. International cooperation on these issues is the need of the hour. We must articulate joint strategies to protect cyber ethics and penalize unlawful internet behavior to defend human rights. Similar attention needs to be paid to the latest developments in artificial intelligence. Care should be taken so that human life with attendant rights as we know it does not get affected. We have to protect the human rights of victims of terrorism, drug abuse, and war and their impact on lives and livelihood, world economy, and peaceful coexistence. The time has come to remind ourselves of ahimsa preached by Lord Buddha and Bhagwan Mahavir. The right to health is a concomitant to the right to life. International cooperation saw the distribution of COVID-19 vaccines by India to 101 countries. The state must change their welfare-based approach to a right-based approach in the essential health services. The right to equality cannot be achieved without gender equality. For women and LGBTQI, equality is necessary. Gender equality must be ensured in education, employment, remuneration, and other civil rights such as inheritance and property rights. The gender-based violence is unacceptable in a civilized society. Similarly, right to equality has to be enforced vis-a-vis especially abled. We must provide them with full opportunities to enable them to make their future and shape their destiny. The concept of providing reasonable opportunity should be interpreted liberally. Recently, insurance have been urged by our Commission to provide coverage to them without discrimination. Effort has to be made to wipe off tears from every eye and bringing smiles to the faces. We must provide basic amenities in a time-bound manner to every human being. As Mahatma Gandhi said, a nation's greatness is measured how it treats its weakest member. The task is to see how best we can strengthen global effort by moving from commitment to action. We need a joint strategy for an emerging challenge to human rights protection in areas of climatic change, business of child trafficking, CSAM, other crimes in cyber space. While closing, I extend my thanks to all those who have contributed to the realization of the aims and objectives of this forum. Let us seize this opportunity to shape human destiny in our region and reaffirm our commitment to the values that bind us together. May this Asia-Pacific Forum of National Human Rights Institutions be a beacon of hope, lighting the path towards a brighter, fairer, and more just tomorrow. Thanks.
Thank you, Justice Arun Mishra. It is indeed our privilege to have the gracious presence of the Honorable President of India, Srimati Draupadi Murmu ji. May I request the Honorable President of India to kindly address us, guide us, and show us the way forward. जोरदार तालियों से माननीय राष्ट्रपति महोदया का स्वागत करें। भारत की माननीय राष्ट्रपति महोदया अब हम सबको संबोधित करेंगी।
Chairperson National Human Rights Commission, Shri Justice Arun Mishra ji, Chairperson Asia Pacific Forum of National Human Rights Institutions, Mr. Du Hon Song ji, Secretary Global Alliance of National Human Rights Institutions, Ms. Amina Waz ji, members NHRC, Dr. D.M. Mole ji, and Shri Rajiv Jain ji, Secretary General NHRC, Shri Bharat Lal ji, delegates from the member as well as from the observer countries, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, Namaskar. I am really happy to inaugurate the annual general meeting and biennial conference of the Asian Pacific Forum on Human Rights. When it comes to human rights, I get inspired to talk about this concept, which is ever evolving, dynamic, and quite close to my heart in my public life. As humankind grows morally and spiritually, the definition of human rights gets further evolved. What gives me immense satisfaction is the fact that this concept is deeply rooted in Indian civilization. The world saw the first glimpse of it when, after massive destruction caused by the two successive world wars, the United Nations General Assembly came up with a formulation, all men are born free and equal, as the beginning of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. It was then India's representative Hansaben Mehta, a disciple of Mahatma Gandhi and freedom fighter, who suggested changing it to all human beings are born free and equal. Her change of one word expanded the notion of rights. Mahatma Gandhi's life and thoughts were also critical in shaping the draft of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. He influenced the human rights discourse. It was under his influence that the notion of human rights came to be expanded from basic necessities of life to dignity of life as well. As many of you know, on June 7, 1893, Gandhiji was robbed of his dignity when he was thrown out of the first-class compartment of the train at Pietermaritzburg in South Africa on account of racial discrimination. He was a changed man then and went on to inspire millions to fight for their rights of dignity. Similarly, Dr. B.R. Ambedkar too was an ardent champion of human rights. He taught the depressed classes to stand for their rights and live with dignity. He also led from the front in shaping the Constitution of India, which is not only aligned with the modern concept of rights, liberty, and justice, but also deeply rooted in the Indian ethos that sees the world as one family, Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, the echo of which resonated during the recently concluded G20 summit. Our Constitution adopted universal adult franchise right since the inception of the Republic and enabled us to usher in numerous silent revolutions in the field of gender justice and protection of life and dignity. We ensured a minimum of 33% reservation for women in local bodies election. What is more, in a pleasant coincidence, a proposal to provide similar reservation for women in the state assemblies and national parliament is taking a shape now. It will be the most transformative revolution in our times for gender justice. Over the years, the government has also launched a number of ambitious schemes to ensure basic facilities like housing, toilets, education, and health facilities, and thus protect the dignity of the poor. I come from a background where I know how privation, poverty, and illiteracy make life miserable, with economic and social disparities which are no less violative of human rights as any other form of discrimination. Dear ladies and gentlemen, the Asia-Pacific Forum on Human Rights comprises 26 nations of the region. Most of the nations that formed this grouping are historically and culturally interconnected. Many of them share heritage and values that combine to make this region distinctly different from the rest of the world. These member nations have coordinated with one another to improve the living conditions of human beings since 1996. When this forum was formed, the group of countries has traveled reasonably far together to achieve its objective, but we still have a long way to go. Here I would like to draw your attention to the historical experience of India with democratic values and individual rights. Much before the Western world got acquainted with the concept of equal human rights through Magna Carta, a revered sage of philosopher from southern India, Basavanna, promoted the concept of individual liberty and equality. He created an assembly of people which was called Anubhava Mandapa, where people, irrespective of their class and gender, would participate and determine their collective fate. Similarly, the concept of a republic may appear modern, but nearly 2,800 years ago, India had the world's first people's representative government in Vaishali. I am referring to history only to point out that India and other nations of this Asia-Pacific region are civilizationally protector of human rights. We are also ready to learn from the best practices in other parts of the world to improve human rights which I believe is an ongoing project. This forum has a great role to play in evolving an international census through deliberation of consultation with human rights institutions and stakeholders all over the world. And I know that all of you are doing it in right earnest. Dear ladies and gentlemen, I was just looking at the list of the conferences this forum had held in the past. What is particularly pleasing is that in the post-pandemic phase, you are holding this conference in person after a gap of 3 years. I am told that the conference is being attended by nearly 100 foreign delegates. Let us ponder for a moment the causes of the pandemic and natural disasters that have been taking place all around us. Let us also ponder over the challenges of climate change that have been threatening the very existence of the plant. Human beings are as good a creator as a destroyer. According to scientific studies, this planet has entered the phase of sixth extinction, where man-made destruction, if not stopped, will be the undoing of not only the human race, but also the other lives on the earth. In this context, I would urge you not to treat the use of human rights in isolation and pay equal attention to nursing Mother Nature, which is deeply wounded by the indiscretion of human beings. In India, we believe that every particle of the universe is a manifestation of divinity. Let us rekindle our love for nature to conserve and enrich it before it is too late. Dear ladies and gentlemen, I am happy to know that this conference has been organized in such a manner as to take a holistic view of human rights, whose realization would ensure good lives for all human beings. More than the codified law, it is a moral obligation of the international community to ensure human rights in every sense of the term. I am told that the conference would have 3 business sessions that would cover international agreements like Paris Principles and Universal Declaration of Human Rights, which provide the basic framework to deliberate upon and coordinate with human rights institutions all over the world. It gives me immense pleasure to learn that one session is exclusively devoted to the topic of environment and climate change, which will have serious bearing on human rights of the people of the poor nations. I am sure that the conference will come out with a comprehensive declaration that will pave the way for betterment of humanity and the planet. In the end, I will refer to the every empowering mantra, Sarve Bhavantu Sukhino, which is the logo of the NHRC, to wish you all success. I once again thank NHRC Chairperson Shri Justice Arun Mishra ji for inviting me to this conference. Thank you. Jai Hind, Jai Bharat.
Thank you, Honorable President Madam, for your inspiring words. May I request you all to kindly rise for the National Anthem of India, Rashtragan. Thank you, Honorable President Madam, for your gracious